a lot of people have asked me, what have I learned through this? I'm still processing it, what God might be teaching me. But I've learned I'm not in control. I already kind of sensed that, but I've learned that as a rock bed lesson, that I'm not in control, and neither are you. I mean, I worked out, walked and jogged 4 miles the day before I went into the hospital. Had no idea that I was sick. I just thought I had indigestion of some kind, that they'd take my gallbladder out and I'd preach on Sunday. We're not in control. I've also learned that God's direct answers to prayer aren't the most important thing in life. That His presence is more important. And I've been privileged to enjoy some sweet, sweet moments of fellowship with our Savior. Even with my family, before I left for Texas, I thought I was going to die that night. There was every indication that I was. And so I called Phil to come down and called all my family. And Matt came from Southern California. And I called each one of my 10 grandchildren, one by one, to my side. And I spent about 10 to 12 minutes with each one, giving them what I called a blessing, talking to them about what I perceived at this point in their life, their strengths, their weaknesses, how God might use them, what temptations they might tend to face because of their personality. And it was a sweet, sweet time that I think it marked me, but I think it'll mark my grandchildren for life. And that would not have taken place if I hadn't been sick. And it would not have taken place if I hadn't been convinced that my time was short, that I was dying that night. And so that's the goodness of God's timing, of not wasting our sorrows, of using them. This came on me so suddenly that, I don't know, this is probably a vain thing, and I've been trying to flush all that out of my life. But it's a preacher thing. Phil could probably testify to this. You want your last sermon to be really significant. My last sermon was on the Church of Thyatira. Who's going to remember the Church of Thyatira? I mean, come on. I'd never preached on Thyatira. That's the last sermon. And so the next sermon I'd already written and was planning on preaching if I hadn't ended up with the diagnosis that I did, is on Revelation chapter 4, which is one of the great, 4 and 5 are the two greatest chapters, I think, in the book of Revelation, two of the greatest in the whole Bible. Revelation 4, you get through with the 7 churches, like I've been preaching on, and the guys have been preaching on. And it's a description of the throne room, of what's going on in heaven right now. It describes these angelic beings, 10,000 times 10,000s, and these 4 living beings, which are angelic beings, and the 24 elders, which I think represent the tribes of Jacob and the apostles, both the Old and the New Testament, and the thousands of people in this crystal sea, worshiping worthy is God. And I wrote the message and was excited about preaching it because it's just I think it's a powerful, it's such a powerful passage. I wrote it with a lot of detail, more than usual, because I already had indigestion, had some pain, and in the back of my mind I thought, what if this is something different than what I think it is? And so I wrote the message with enough detail. I think that Andrew can preach it someday. And who knows, God may extend my life and I may preach it We don't know. We don't know what God's will is. We just don't know. But again, just thank you for coming out. Thank you for your cards, your letters, so many kind things. And I want to thank my family. They've just been, we flew back there on a private plane. Someone blessed us with that, which I was blown away by that. So Andrew and Matthew came and spent a week. I think Kelsey, between Santa Barbara and Texas, she was there 4 or 5 weeks, probably. Faith, my daughter, was with me all 6 weeks there in Texas and came back. And so we ought to thank Brian because he was taking care of 2 little girls during that time, as well as the church. These are important times for our church. I think that part of understanding God's will is we always want to know why things happen. I think that's probably down the list of what we need to know. What happened? That's significant. And then the timing of when it happens. I don't think we should ignore that. I don't think it's any accident that we're in a transition in the life of our church and that we're this far along in this transition, that we're voting on Brian this coming Sunday. We're that far along in the transition where I can retire. And start to say I can die. I guess we can always die, but, and the transition is whole. That these guys, in my opinion, and I believe in the majority of the church's opinion, are ready. And I was thinking just a night or two ago. I mean, Phil and I made this decision pretty arbitrarily to begin our transition. We didn't know where that was going to take us, necessarily who it was going to take us to, but we knew we were coming to the end. And we could have just as easily arbitrarily said 70 as we did 68. And we would just now be starting a transition. And imagine the angst that we would feel as a church. I can only imagine what I would feel as a pastor not having completed this transition. And so I think that we need to thank God for that. We need to honor God for protecting us as a church and securing the future, I think, of our church for decades and decades to come, irregardless of me or irregardless of Phil. God bless you.
Thank you, Dad.